Cool. All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We've got John Riley here today, who's our usual TypeScript extraordinaire, but I don't know. I don't think there'll be any TypeScript today.
No, not really.
Not really. Okay.
Actually, ish.
Ish. There we go.
Ish.
So yeah, we're going to be building a blog in less than 30 minutes using Docusaurus. I always think it's Docusaurus.
It's funny, I've never actually heard it officially said out loud. I always say Docusaurus. Yeah, like I don't know. I could be wrong.
Cool. Yeah, and we'll be deploying it with GitHub Actions, and the whole thing will get set up on Azure Static Web Apps, which I've never used. And yeah, I'm a big WordPress person, so one big thing about that stack is how easy it is to just like get everything up and running. So it seems like we'll be doing kind of exactly that today. So yeah, if you can't stay the whole time, the recording will be sent after. If you have any questions, drop them in the chat. Yeah, before I pass it over to him. So yeah, this meetup is brought to you by LogRocket. We're a front-end application performance monitoring solution. We mix error tracking, kind of front-end analytics, and then performance monitoring. And actually, if you are curious about LogRocket, we have a webinar tomorrow on front-end performance monitoring. It's not just about LogRocket, it's just kind of how we think about front-end performance. Brendan, who's the director of our product engineering at LogRocket, is the one who's going to be leading it. And yeah, like, we're kind of think of performance less of, the numbers and all that, and really in terms of like what actually impacts your end users. So I'll drop this link in the chat if you want to join us. There's a couple thousand people joining, so it should be a good virtual party. Cool. So I'll shut up. Yeah, take it away, John.
Cool. Thank you very much, Luke. I'm gonna search for the share screen button, which must be around here somewhere. Share screen. There we go. Marvelous. And I'm going to share my entire screen. And cool. We are going. Cool. Yeah. So my name is John Riley, and in my day job, I work for Investec as an engineer. And yeah, incidentally, if you're an engineer looking for a cool place, we are a cool place. So shout me. In my spare time, I do a lot of open source. I work on things like TS Loader, Definitely Typed, and I have a blog which is also open source. And today, like, our plan is to bring up a blog in 30 minutes using Docusaurus, GitHub Actions, and Azure Static Web Apps. And this is exactly the stack on which my own blog runs. So in fact, I'm going to spin this open here, and we'll share like links later on. But lots of the things that you're going to see even today are things that you could see on my blog, which is open source and free for everyone to see. And if you wanted to do this yourself, you could follow along. I'll be going like relatively slow, so you could do this with me now. But as Luke said, there's going to be a recording, so you could you could do this like after the fact. And cool. So let's get going. I'm fairly passionate about blogging. I've been blogging for about 10 years now, probably, gosh. And the reason that I really like it is, I think, because it forces you to think about expressing yourself. There's this like saying that everyone who teaches learns twice, and I think that that applies like generally to like when you're forced to express yourself. And so blogging is exactly that. Whenever you're writing about something, you have to think about what it is, and it gets you to learn, and it's a really useful thing. Now we're going to kick off by making a repository in GitHub. So I'm just going to go to my GitHub. You can do this under your own. Click on New. I'm going to create a repository inside here. I'm going to call it LogRocket blog. Which I can, which is marvelous. And by the way, like the fun of this today, this is like live coding, right? Like, because it's live coding, the demo gods may smile upon me, they may not. Things may work, things may break, but that's kind of makes it like interesting and exciting, right? So I'm going to create this repository, a brand new repository. I'm just going to leave all the defaults in there. I'm not really going to do anything. Click on create repository. Marvelous. We've got a brand new repository. I'm going to copy this thing over here. I'm going to fire up my my terminal. I'm doing this on Ubuntu, which is just like my particular favorite thing to use, but there's nothing particularly special about this. You could do this on any stack at all. And yeah, so yeah, Windows, Mac, Linux, whatever. It's all the same. So I'm going to clone this, git clone, and down comes our empty repo. In fact, it's telling me it's an empty repo. And I'm going to fire up VS Code, which is definitely my favorite editing place, in that directory that I've just brought down. So LogRocket blog, marvelous. And up comes VS Code. And whoops, minimize you. And there's nothing in there right now. And yeah, we have an empty repository. I have a blank sheet of paper. Tremendous. So we're going to use this thing called Docusaurus. So let's go and find Docusaurus. If I go to the interwebs and you go to docusaurus.io, you'll find Docusaurus, or the site of Docusaurus. And Docusaurus is it's a tool that allows you to build like websites and blogs like really easily, particularly using Markdown. And well, in actual fact, like, it's kind of like a React framework. Like it allows you to build a React app really simply, and that's what we're going to do here. And the Markdown bit is significant, but we'll talk about that a little bit later on. So we've gone to the Docusaurus IO site, and we're going to click on Get Started. There's actually some good little demo videos down here and that if you wanted to watch them to like learn more about Docusaurus. But I'm going to click on Get Started. I'm going to follow like the instruction steps like anyone out there would. So the easiest way to get up and running with Docusaurus is to just take this command here, this npx create Docusaurus at latest my website classic. I guess there's a couple of assumptions here. I guess the assumptions are that you've got Node.js installed. It's built using Node.js, so you need Node.js to do this, and I have that, and it's very simple to get that if you don't. So I've just copied that. And I'm going to go back to VS Code. I'm going to fire up my my terminal inside VS Code. There's a happy list to work. Oh, it's interesting. They've given me the branch name of master for my brand new repository, which is kind of surprising because I thought that GitHub had changed to make main the default. That bothers. We'll fix that as we go along. Doesn't really matter. So let's take the command that we got just now, paste that inside here. So npx create Docusaurus at latest my website classic. And what this is going to do as we run it, it's going to run the create Docusaurus command, like for the latest version that's out there. So it's going out to the interwebs right now, and you can see this this folder's just appeared on the left hand side. This my website folder, and this is creating and scaffolding out our new website and bringing down all the node modules and whatnot that this thing requires as well. So you can see there's a number of different files in there, and we're going to start playing with those to build our site. So let's take a look at what we've got inside here. We've got like a blog thing, and this is obviously what we're going to be doing. This is going to be our blog. Take a look at that. You've got this configuration file, this Docusaurus configuration file here, and this is going to be super interesting to us. We're going to make some changes inside here, and so this is kind of the thing that you use to configure your site. So things like the title and the tagline. Oh, we've got some red swigglies here. So actually, yeah. Luke mentioned that I normally talk about TypeScript, and what you're seeing there is red squigglies because we've got some TypeScript errors, and that's because Docusaurus is built using TypeScript, obviously. Although when you scaffold out a new site, you actually like to scaffold it out a JavaScript site. So if you take a look at the source and take a look at the pages inside here, you'll see these are just like JavaScript files. It's done using like the type safety that you can get in JavaScript through JSDoc, which TypeScript affords and powers. And yeah, you can see those red things have just disappeared there, and that's because it's downloaded the types behind the scenes that it needed to power that. So like if I hover over this, like I've got type annotations a go, and that's thanks to TypeScript, even though we're in JavaScript. Wow. Cool. So now we've got this this site set up. That's tremendous. And I'm going to cd into my site here, following the instructions that it's given me. So I'm going to cd into my website, which is that folder there. And I'm going to try and see what we've got there with my lovely npm start. So npm start, and this is just spinning up a local web server in which we can take a look at our website that we've built, our Docusaurus site. So as you can see, it's like spinning. I'm going to close down the tab, the Docusaurus one here. Let's close some of these other tabs. I'll close this one too, perhaps. And spin back to here. You can see it's like doing the initial build, uses a Webpack behind the scenes, and when it's first coming up, it can be slightly slow. But in a moment, we will see our splendid site. Here we go. So if you go back to here, here it is in all its splendor, our site. My site, Dinosaurs Are Cool, Docusaurus tutorial. And underneath here, you can see there's a blog, like it ships with the blog like from the get-go. And actually part of the configuration of Docusaurus is you can make like the blog like the only thing in there. And in fact, if you go to like my own blog, like that's the way I have it configured. So like, the blog is like the only thing that's in the box for me. But we're not going to do that like on this occasion, because actually like you might want like the other stuff that's in there as well. They've got like beautiful like pages and things like that. But we're going to be mainly fiddling with the blog section in here. So you can see you've got some like default blogs that are in the box that it ships with. And let's take a look at what powers those things. So if we flip back to VS Code and you go up to this blog folder here, and you can see there's a bunch of stuff in here that's related to that. And they give you like a number of examples. So the one that we're looking at there, if you look at the date on it, 2021-08-26, welcome. Like that marries up with this thing here. And there's a couple of other posts in the box as well. And it's like demonstrating different ways in which you can write blog posts. You can use MDX, which is like a variant on Markdown, if you like. But most of these are Markdown posts. And if you haven't heard of Markdown, Markdown is basically a very simple syntax through which you can write text, and that text can be presented in a beautiful way. And I'd actually generally recommend when you're writing, well, actually anything, that you make it as simple for you as possible. So like if you've got tremendous options out there to to change fonts and styles and all this kind of stuff, it's just a distraction, right? Like all that stuff is just going to stop you actually doing the thing that you want to do, which is focusing on the writing, like writing something that's significant. So Markdown is a wonderful way to force that focus, because like, all you've got is text and a few like variants in that text. So Markdown is just like a beautiful mechanism for writing in, and I would recommend it highly. Let's make this a little bit simpler by deleting out some of these things in here to like distract from the noise. So I'm going to get rid of these guys. Move to trash, and that just leaves us with our single blog entry here. And so now this thing's just waking up. Give it a moment. Yeah, we've just got a single blog post, this was welcome thing here. And as you're working locally, you can tweak that post, which is just made up of like an index.markdown file inside the directory that represents your blog. And you can just like change things in there. So welcome everyone, say. If I do that, save it, flip back to here, it comes back with welcome everyone. Marvelous, like it's working. So let's say, okay, for whatever reason, we're going to keep the existing blog post around, and we're going to write a brand new blog post. So we're just going to take the one that's there already. I'll copy and paste that guy, and I'll rename this, and I'm going to put today's date on it, which is, I think, yep, so it's the 22nd of June. And there we go. And I'm going to put a little title on it, and I'll say LogRocket hello LogRocket, whichever. And this is created, that brand new that entry inside there. And I'm going to put inside here the title, hello LogRocket, the other way around this time. And I'm going to see what that leaves me with. So if I flip back to here, you'll see we've got welcome everyone and hello LogRocket. And hello LogRocket is the one that we're working on right now. So let's make some changes to this. Change the slug to be hello LogRocket, and this I think will give me like a nice little URL thing up there. Sometimes it takes a while to catch up. Okay, isn't that? And I'm going to change the name of the author. So instead of Sebastian Lorber and At Yang Zhang, who both work on Docusaurus, I'm going to put me in. So Johnny Riley, and I don't I'm going to get an error, as you can see right down there, because it doesn't know who I am. So I'm going to drop down to this authors file here. This authors file is just like you can see just like a little list of aliases here. So you can see there was Sebastian Lorber, there's Yang Shante. So I'm going to add me to the list as well. And so I'm going to copy paste this, and inside here I'm going to stick Johnny Riley. Whoops. And just like they've done, I'm going to borrow. Actually, so Sebastian's got his blog in there, so I'll stick my blog in there because why not? Johnny Riley. And I'm going to. He's got his GitHub avatar in there. I'm going to do the same for mine. So github.com, johnnyriley.png. Oh, and the name, of course. The name, of course. So John Riley, engineer. I'll say that. Engineer. And now the console is going to get kind of happy. We flip back to here, and tremendous. We've got there's me, John Riley, the engineer. It's got a link in there which goes off to my blog. So this is all like working quite nicely, which is good. And if I wanted to then come in here and write my blog post, I could come in here and write some fantastic stuff. And GitHub Copilot is suggesting that I add that in. So I'm gonna, yeah, why not? GitHub Copilot has contributed to this presentation, isn't that tremendous? Cool. So write some fantastic stuff here. So let's recap. Where are we? We've got a repository set up in GitHub locally on my machine. We've got a Docusaurus site scaffolded up, and yeah, we've managed to like write our first magnificent blog post. So it's all going very well. This is very pleasing. But we don't ship my machine to the user. They can't see this. They can't go to localhost 3000 and see this. So our next mission, I think, is to get this up onto a server somehow. How does that happen? Well, first things first, we're going to need to go to our Docusaurus config file. And inside here, there's like various different configuration stuff. So we're going to change the title from my site to, I don't know, let's call it LogRocket's demo site, something like that. And dinosaurs are cool. It's still a great tagline. If I had a URL for my blog post, and if you're running your own blog, you probably will want to have your own URL, then you would put it in there. We're not going to have time to set that up in this thing here today, because DNS can take a while to set up the actual getting your domain name pointing to the right thing. But that's where you would configure it inside here, so it's worth knowing that. And we're going to be deploying using GitHub. And so I'm going to change these values here. Organization name, that's going to be me. That's going to be my URL here. So I'm just going to take that basically from here. So the Johnny Riley, that's the organization, and LogRocket blog is the name of this thing here. So into here, I'm going to drop LogRocket blog. I hope I haven't got it wrong. Yeah, I think that looks about right to me. And marvelous. Is there anything else that I want to change in here? No, that looks pretty solid to me. Great. So what happens when this runs up there? So when we're running locally, we've got this local like static file server. That's what's happening when we're doing the npm start. And that's tremendous. But what we want when we're actually deploying our site is not to be spinning up a static site server. We're going to be using Azure Static Web Apps for that. So what we do is we have this build step, and the build step, like with many web projects, if you go to your package.json, you'll see there's a build step inside there, and that runs this Docusaurus build thing, which does a build. And just to show you what that looks like, I'm going to do an npm run build here. And this is going to run the build, which I think takes about like a minute or so, something like that. And you can see it's like building a client and a server. And the thing to like know about that is that one of the nice things about Docusaurus is that it does, when you do a build, it builds a version of your site as like static HTML, such that when the web browser, sorry, the search engines out there, the likes of like Google and Bing and whatnot, DuckDuckGo, are crawling the web looking for content to stick in their search engines, they will find like a fully rendered version of our site, and they'll be able to use that to put up there. Whereas because it's like React, it's a what do you call it? It's a SPA, single page application. If we didn't have that in place, then when you first came to the page, you'd have that okay, there's nothing there, whilst React like wakes up, boots, does all its things, and does its like initial render. So so having that server build as well as the client build means that you get like better search engine optimization. So if you care about people reading your blog, that's going to matter to you. That's going to be significant. Yeah, you just that faster time to rendering. So when people like come to your site, they'll see something faster, and that's tremendous. So we've done a build there, and the thing you'll note on the left-hand side here is there's this build folder, and that's where it's dumped everything that is built. And if you ever look inside there, you can see there's like an index HTML and all the stuff inside there, and all that kind of thing, and all the different folders in there. So in fact, if I go to the blog inside there, you'll see there's Hello LogRocket, which we just wrote. This is our delightful little site. Next is like fully rendered little page, all of the content in there right from the get-go, nicely minified so that it reuses the least network data as possible to send things across the wire. Like, it's great, it's really good. It's even got like things like RSS and feed reader. So if you have like feed readers in your world, then they can plug into this, which is great as well. This shows you what the build looks like, and that's the thing that we want to be living on a server somewhere. Specifically, we want to live in Azure Static Web Apps. So that we can do that, the first thing we need to do is get this off my machine and like ship it somewhere. So I'm going to take everything that we've got here, all of these things that we've built out, and let's just like push them up. So I'm going to go down to the console, and I think add everything there. And I'm going to commit everything here. And I'm not super rigorous when it comes to commit messages, but I'll make a gesture in the direction of having sort of like meaningful committers and stylish type things. I'm probably going to get it wrong half the time. I often do. So I'm going to commit that, and we're going to push this up. There we go. We've pushed it. And if we go back to the server now, to GitHub, I should say, and hit Control-R, here is our website. It's all there. It's on the server. It's ready for putting out somewhere. Tremendous. So I already have an account set up with Azure. I use it to power my own blog, and that's where we're going to go. So I'm going to go I'm going to open up a new tab. I'm going to type portal.azure.com, and it's remembering my URLs. Doesn't matter. So I'm going to go to here, and it's going to log me in. No. Okay. It's trying to use. Give me a second. Azure.com. Delete that. Just go to here. And this time I'm going to come in. Fingers crossed. Boom. In we go. And one thing that you do need to know about Azure, by the way, it's super simple to set up an account. You can do that like really easily. I won't go through that now, but yeah, just know that it's super straightforward to set up. Everything that you deploy to Azure lives inside the context of a resource group. You don't have to know what that is. Just imagine it's like a container. And I've got a number of resource groups set up already. One of them with a handy name of LogRocket. So here's LogRocket, and in we go to our resource group. And inside here, well, you can see I've been practicing for this. We're going to create ourselves a new static web app. So I'm going to go to create inside the context of LogRocket, and we are going to create a static web app. So I'm going to search for static web. There we go, static web app. And just going to get down here. Oh, there's a hard thing. Maybe that's always been there. I'm going to click on create static web app. And this is going to make me a static web app, or start the process. So we've got a little walkthrough type thing here. So I'm going to use my existing resource group, and I need a name for it. And I like my name for my static web app to match what my repo is called. I'll make it straightforward for me to understand. So I'm going to call this LogRocket-blog. So I'm going to go across here, and I'll call it LogRocket-blog. Didn't have to do this, by the way. Just it makes it easy for me to make that connection. And this is one of the reasons why I love Azure Static Web Apps. It's free. It doesn't cost me anything. So like we're going to be able to like run this, have like great performance, and it's not going to cost us a dime. So let's scroll down. Incidentally, there are plenty of other services out there that do this kind of thing. So Netlify was something that I used to do this exactly like some time ago. And Netlify is also great, but there's more expense with that. So whilst you can have like a free hosting, you generally get like a limited number of build minutes before you get a bill, and you just get a lot more build minutes with GitHub Actions, and so that's been a big sell for me. So you can decide where you want to host this. I'm going to go with Central US. I think my own blog is actually probably in West Europe, but yeah, it doesn't really matter for now. And you need a source from where you're going to be deploying, and you can choose GitHub, Azure DevOps, other, and we're doing GitHub obviously, and not surprisingly, because Microsoft own GitHub, there's a very good integration between GitHub and Azure. So I'm happy with that GitHub account. That's my GitHub account. And let's scroll a bit further down, and the organization. These are the organizations to which I have access, and I'm going to go with Johnny Riley, because that's where my thing lives. And it's now going to load up the repos, the repositories that sit underneath Johnny Riley. And there's 100 or so, but yeah, we know what we're looking for. We're after LogRocket blog, that one there. So we're going to take that, and it gets the branches. And oh, I said I was going to do something about that. Yes, I am going to do something about that. So I don't like that it's the branches called master, but that's a super easy thing to fix. I just go to the settings on my blog. I'm going to go to my branches, and I can change this from master to main. It could be anything else really, but like main is a good convention generally, one that I've appreciated. And yeah, change default branch. Oops, I thought that it did that anyways. Okay, cool. If I go back to here, yep. So this is a nice little bit of user experience here. Like now that it knows that I've renamed my default branch, it gives me the little bit of code that I can drop into my console here for my local thing, just to marry up my local version of this particular repo with what we've got deployed. So paste that thing in there. Boom, married up, lovely. Cool. So here we go. Now we've got this set up. I'm going to zip back to Azure, and yeah, I probably need to get this to refresh. So I'm going to change something else and go back here again and say LogRocket blog, and that will reload. That loaded, marvelous. There's main, terrific, cool. So next, you can add tags against this, and we don't really need to right now, so we're not going to. Click on next, and this is the thing that we're going to create, and it's being created now. Sorry, it's being created now, I should say. And we click over into this guy. Oops, actually, I'll leave it where we are. Okay, so I think there we go. Already we have a static web app. That was pretty snappy, and this is it. And you can see inside here we've got this this URL, and this is our static web app. So I think if I go to that, make a new tab, and here it is. There's this is our website. It's there. There's nothing on it right now, but it's there. And actually, the there's nothing on it bit is going to be solved in like fairly short order. The thing you might have noticed here as well is there's this mention of like GitHub Actions and workflows and stuff. And what's happened here is at the point that you create the repository, GitHub receives a GitHub action from Azure. Azure sets up a GitHub action inside your repository to do the deployment. And if we flip over to our repository here, and okay, got it. If I click into the, if I just hit the refresh, so look at the screen now, and you'll see there's like, there's this my website directory, and when I hit refresh, you're going to see that there's a new directory in there. There we go, my GitHub Workflows directory, and inside there is our GitHub action that's just been created. This GitHub action here, we drop into it, is the thing that is going to use to build and deploy our site. And you see, it's not too verbose. There's not tons in there. There's two things in there. There's build and deploy job and close pull request job, and we'll talk about those in a bit. And yeah, there's some default setups in there. And actually, I know that those default setups are going to be close, but kind of no cigar. So let's have a look at our actions at the top here, and you can see we've got like a nasty red cross here, and that's because the defaults that it's got set up don't quite match like our repository, and that's the thing that we're going to fix right now. So like we run our GitHub action and it was toast. So we are going to fix that up now. So I'm going to go to my machine here, and I'm going to do a couple of changes. So first thing to note, oh yeah, so I need to pull to bring all this stuff down. See, like right now I don't have this, so I'll close down build, and if I do a git pull, and it comes, and inside here is my GitHub workflow. And what things do we need to change in here? Well, probably first things first is the app location. And what this is the place where we put the source code that represents our application. And as you can see, we've got a directory here called my website. So that's exactly what we want to have here. We want to have my website like that. And that will mean that when the action runs, it knows that the app lives in that location there. And you also probably remember from earlier on that during the build step, like we build our application to a directory, specifically to this build directory here. And when we push this up, our GitHub action using this tool called Oryx is going to build our application for us, and it wants to know where to collect the thing that it's built. And so we're going to put that into here. We're just going to put in build. So this will mean that the Oryx can see, okay, inside my website, there's some source code. We're going to run the the classic npm build inside there, and then we're going to collect the output from here, and that's the thing that we're going to publish to our static web app. And you can also have like an API on the back of your static web app, but we've got no need for that. This is just a blog. It's just text. There's no backend required. So I've made those two changes there. There's one other change that we're going to require, and this is a change that we need like right now, but actually like by and large in the future you shouldn't need this. So I mentioned that we use Azure Static Web Apps uses a tool called Oryx to do the build, and by default Oryx ships with Node 14, and Docusaurus, as of I think the last version, requires Node 16 as a minimum. And so what we're going to do is we're going to add a little entry in here to make that happen. And I bumped on this myself and supplied a fix to the ecosystem for that. So actually, if you get a new version of Docusaurus now, you will find that it puts the version in there for you. And I'm going to go with Node 16. I think actually, if you try and build with Node 18, there's actually a problem right now because Node 18 is like fairly new, but actually that's probably going to disappear in fairly short order. But yeah, so let's look at the changes that we've got here. And it's funny, why are they not showing up? Okay, cool. So we've got Azure Static Web Apps, the two tweaks that we've done here, my website and build, and inside the package JSON, we've got the engines node. Let's ship this and get the build working. So let's say beat get build working. My apologies to commit citizens out there. And I'm going to commit that. I'm going to push it up, and magically, we should see on the server that the build kicks off again. And yep, it's running. So let's open this up. And whilst this is running, it takes I think about 2 minutes or so to go. I think we'll talk a little bit about what's happening. So you can see there's two jobs in there, the build and deploy job and the close pull request job. Now the build and deploy job, what it's doing is it's using this Oryx thing that I mentioned, and Oryx is it's a smart little tool. We'll have a quick Google of that. So I'll just go to Oryx build. Oh, here we go. So another open source project, and what this does is, yeah, well, the about kind of tells you exactly. It says build your repo automatically, and what this does is it can take any repo and it can probably build what's in there, maybe with a little bit of help from you. So it can build like Node.js, can build Python. I expect it can probably build other things too. I bet .NET's in there somewhere. But yeah, this is what powers the build for Azure Static Web Apps, and that's what's happening over here. This thing here is invoking Oryx. In fact, if we look inside here, here you go, Oryx build logs. And you can see some useful stuff here. So you can say app build direction my website was found. So it's found that. That's tremendous. And if we go down here, you can see that it's installing Node.js 16, and it's doing that because we made that tweak to the engines part of the package.json. Brilliant. And if we go a little bit further down, we'll see that, yeah, it's doing the install to install the dependencies for Docusaurus. Once it's done that install, it's going to kick off the build. And yes, we get the classic like bajillion warnings as you do an npm install that makes you worry if you're doing something really wrong, but you're actually not. It's fine. It's just that's just what it's like using Node. So this thing here is gonna kick off, and it's going to build, and it's going to push up the thing that it builds. It's going to push up the output of that build directory to the Azure Static Web App. So this thing over here is going to have content once the build here finishes running and finishes pushing stuff up. And if we dash over to the portal in Azure, in fact, yeah, look at that. You can see the request coming in. That's probably me hitting it for the first time. And I think I'd also want you to notice is environments here. So environments is something we're going to look at again in a second before we finish off. And you can see we've got this main environment. This is our standard website, as it were, which is in the process of building and shipping like right now. In fact, yeah, there you go. So you can see that it's done the build, and it's copying the files to the destination. So that's just being pushed up right now. In fact, yeah, it zipped it, marvelous. It's yes, it uploaded it to the thing. So now we're just waiting for this thing to magically like pop into view inside Azure. So what this will mean that once that is done, we will have the content there. Perfect, and there it is. So it's done this, it's there. And if we go to this URL here, and if I hit Command R, we should go from having this like Azure Static Web App, like boilerplate, to having an actual site, and we do, which is marvelous. So now we're at the point where we've actually got like a site up and running, and with close enough to half an hour, I'm going to say that was good. And we're now going to do like one more thing for bonus points before we finish off, because one of the reasons that I really like Azure Static Web Apps is because of a feature called preview environments. Is it named preview environments? Yeah, I think there's a similar thing inside Netlify called pull request previews. And let me kick off like making that happen, and then let me show you like what that is. So let's dive back to here, and let's imagine, well, let's not imagine because we're there. We have our website up and running. We have our blog up and running, and we're working on a brand new blog. So I'm going to create a new branch like any good engineer, and say git checkouts, and I'm going to say my new blog is my branch, and inside here I'm going to start working on that new thing. So so this is going to actually, I'm going to take this, I'm going to rename it, and I'm going to give it tomorrow's date because we're going to publish it tomorrow instead of today. And I'll call this my future, oops, my future fantastic. And again, name doesn't really matter. And what's significant here is it is a new thing. So hard. And new thing. Okay, so here's our stuff, and I'm going to push this up. And I'm going to say feats new post. Get that. A publish branch. Thank you, VS Code. And if I go back to GitHub here and dive over to pull requests, I can create a pull request from the branch that I just pushed up just now. I'm not going to write a description. I feel really bad about that because I normally encourage writing good descriptions on blog posts, but we're all friends. And behind the scenes, well, in fact, yeah, you can see it kicked off the build for us just there already, which is tremendous. And the interesting thing is what this build is going to do, because what I really like when I'm working on a blog post, and sometimes it can take me a while when I'm writing one, is to see what it's going to look like in its finished form as I'm working on it. And I don't want to have to like publish it to, like over my existing website, so like to find out what it'll look like. I want to see a preview of it. I want to see like what it's really going to be like, and that's made super easy for me with Azure Static Web Apps, because they have a feature called environments, and that's what I was referencing when I talked about this this environments thing here. So you can see right now we've just got this main inside here, and if I hit refresh here, yeah, we've still just got main. But what's happening is that as this pipeline runs here, in fact, let's click into the pipeline. What this thing is doing is it's smart enough to know that because we're building, and we're building not on the main branch, we're building on a different branch, that this is a candidate for a named environment. So what it's going to do is it's going to take the output of the build here, but instead of publishing it over the top of this guy, which would be sad, it's going to spin us up a brand new version of our site, and it's going to put that up so that we can take a look at it, browse around, like get a feel for like how it reads, because it's sometimes I find when I read things back, like in their published form, it's different to how it's seen when I was writing it inside VS Code on my phone or whatever. It gives you that ability to fully get a feel for what it's going to be like when it actually ships, when you've actually hit that merge button, without having to have committed to doing that. And the way that it does that, it gives you this this named environment down here, which is going to appear shortly. And that named environment is an entirely like separate URL that you can iterate on, so you can keep sort of like tweaking it. And so oftentimes I'll have a named environment up and running for like, you know, three weeks or so as I'm working on something, and keep tweaking it, keep looking at it and seeing what it's like. And then when it's done, when you merge a pull request, you will notice that there's this close pull request job thing. And what that is, it's going to do a cleanup once you've finished working on something. So that environment that Azure Static Web Apps is putting up for you, it doesn't live forever, because that would be you know a waste of money. When you close the pull request, either because you've abandoned it or because you've merged it, it tears down that temporary environment. But now that we've run to the end of the build here, if I take a look at the build and deploy step, at the end of this, I will see, boom, here is my pull request preview. And if I take a look at the pull request preview here, you'll see that this thing, if we go to blog, has the it's a new thing here. And if I go to my actual blog, oops, sorry, that's the localhost one, let's get rid of that. If we go to this one here, maybe I'll put them next to each other like that, you'll see that this remains unchanged. If you go to the blog section here, just the two things here. So I've got my latest and greatest here. I can iterate on that. I can see what it's like. And then when I'm ready, I can come back and I can hit the merge button, and it can become like the real thing. And I don't even, by the way, have to dive into the GitHub Action logs to be able to see that thing, because one of the nice features is that it pumps the URL into the pull request, so you can like get it like right there and then. And yeah, that brings us, I think, to the end of the demo. We've put together a blog. We've used Docusaurus. We've used GitHub Actions. We've used Azure Static Web Apps. Hopefully, this has been interesting to you. I would encourage you to get out there and write a blog if that's something that you're considering. It's much easier than you might imagine. So if you have any doubts, and I procrastinated for a long time before I got going, try as much as you can to put them to one side and just like stick stuff out there. It's really worth doing. And with that, I'll stop sharing my screen and turn back to Luke. Stop share.
Awesome.
Is that one?
Thanks, John.
Perfect.
Yeah, you're good. Yeah, well, a couple of questions came up. For anyone, I'm going to send the recording, let's see, in, I don't know, maybe an hour. So that was one. Everyone says, thanks. Can it be used with TypeScript? Yes.
Yes.
I can answer that one.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so Docusaurus ships with like TypeScript support in the box, and yeah, so there's like another option on the site. I won't go there. Won't go there right now. But if you
Cool.
go to the Docusaurus site, you will see that there's like a TypeScript template option, and that will scaffold out like a TypeScript version for you.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's written in TypeScript as well, so the people who are behind it are motivated to make that a good experience.
Cool. And so I've got like two kind of questions. Let's say like your blog blows up and gets tons of page views and all that. Like, how much does like Azure Static Web Apps handle like all the load balancing and just like figuring out all of that when you're in a high traffic environment?
Sure, that's definitely like good problem to have territory.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like my experience is that it's like really solid. Like, so my own blog gets like about probably about sort of 14,000 like hits a month. It's like it gets reasonable traffic. It's never had any problems.
Yeah.
I'm not aware of like ever having pushed the boundaries of Azure Static Web Apps. I know that there's like a lot of like, if you do get to the point where you're a super user, I don't know, you're the most popular blogger in the land or something like that, there are like lots of extra things that can be added in. So something that shipped like relatively recently that I haven't tested, but I know of, is like what's the name of it? Edge. Oh, I can't remember the name of it now. It's not Edge function. It's well, it's kind of like oh, damn it. Is it front door? No. Okay, I can't remember the name of it, but it gives you that extra what do you call it? Oomph, shall we say?
Yeah.
That's a technical term.
And then like a lot of when they're building a blog focused site or just kind of static site, I noticed that author's YAML file.
Yeah.
How hard would it be to add like another custom object like that like is required on every post? So say you've got like an Google Ads ad, and you need to have the image on every post, and it's required just like the author's file kind of
something
provided.
Something that isn't actually an author, but is like a required thing.
Exactly. Like, yeah, just like the functionality of that author's thing.
Okay. Yeah.
If you were to replicate that, have you ever looked into like how that actually works?
No, but first of all, I don't think that there's anything like that in the box right now. So the authors thing that we used, like I think that I want to say that shipped like relatively recently, within the last like 5 or 6 versions of Docusaurus, perhaps, or like beta versions, I should say. And so I don't think there's anything like in the box for that, but it's worth saying that like Docusaurus is open source, and that you can make contributions to it, and they might be open to that. Like, I should say that I've made about, I want to say like 5 or 6 contributions to Docusaurus, like over time, for things that I found like useful and interesting. And yeah, they're a great and friendly bunch. They've got a great Discord as well. So like it's often like, write the proposal if that's the thing that's like you think is useful, and that they may well take it on, and they take pull requests. So yeah, this is open source.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks a lot. That was all the questions.
Cool.
And then yeah, I think a follow-up video I'll send around too is your SEO with React video, because that obviously that's kind of a step one in my opinion to make sure that's all figured out.
Yeah, I think that also, I feel like that used Docusaurus as well. But I'm not sure. I think it did. Not so.
Oh, cool. Oh yeah, it did. Yeah, it did. Yeah. So yeah. Perfect follow-up.
Hey.
All right, awesome. Thanks,
cool.
John.
Well,
we'll see you soon.
Thanks so much, Joel. Really enjoyed it. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye-bye.